Hello, everybody. We are live, and in today's topic, we're going to be going over Kenny Omega's uh, dismay over the fans' reaction over Japanese wrestlers and how they struggle to get over here in the Western world for pro wrestling, and probably mainstream wise. And also, we're gonna go over probably in a later video, so I can discuss more on the topic over the impact over WWE's demographic changing over to back to TV 14 that we haven't seen since 2008 in the middle of all the controversies over, you know, all the PR struggle WWE has struggled to hold since 2007. And we'll go over how that's probably not going to affect the way WWE's branding is, or how that's going to affect WWE's way they even resource their content. So that'll probably in a later note. Let's go over Kenny Omega's very strong take on the American treatment of Japanese talent and their differences between Japanese talent and the talent of other cultures. A lot of international talent. They came in the country not really expecting everyone to be relentless and ruthless and shredded humanity. Omega said, "It's unfortunate if that's the case. In the world they came into, they know." Like, he's trying to push over the sympathy card. And I understand the same way about New Japan fans why uh alternative fans that are probably not trying to watch WWE or not trying to find something outside of their comfort zone. They're trying to watch something in the in other markets like they do with English pro wrestling or Japanese pro wrestling. We seriously can't understand the humor that goes into it, that pulls into them playing, getting over the language barrier, and it's cringe for some of the gimmicks. People, you see people dress up in like schoolgirl outfits, men cross dress. Whenever you hear or watch Japanese wrestling, bro, you seeing grown men half naked coming around like dry humping somebody in a match, and that's a source of entertainment for Japanese fan bases, and you barely see that full up an arena more than a Hornswoggle and Santino Morella segment, and that's dumb shit. So don't be trying to aesthetic just not the fans understanding it and calling it xenophobia because we don't understand these Japs and we don't want to see them in American television. If that was the case, we wouldn't have done the same thing for people like Walter or people like Rey Mysterio or people in way different parts of the country than Japan. If that's the essence of why you think we in the United States have an issue with Japanese wrestling, Kenny, you're giving Japanese wrestlers too much credit. And if that was the standpoint, you guys should have been pushing over vignettes, interviews, and trying to tell us more of how these Japanese wrestlers are pushing the factor. Or else you guys could have drawn more people in your inner circle, in your dumb, I didn't mean inner circle, your Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Because nobody over the aspect of forcing themselves to watch the pay-per-view, even if the matches were good, that's not always going to draw the fans because Japanese wrestlers work hard. If they work so hard, they would be getting reasons why they wrestle, why they're in the feud, why do they target some of the AEW stars, or why they focus on coming to America. All this stuff pushes for us to get behind us because you bring time for emotional investment into these wrestlers. That's not to the extent of us not caring, Kenny. It's agitating whenever you try to say this so you can push over a narrative that American fans are just xenophobic against the Japanese culture and the way Japan does wrestling. Or else we wouldn't be putting a high pedestal to guys like Nakamura that, were pushed in America. To Jerry that's worked around many feds. People, even people like that, not a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, at least heard or can tell who the hell Jushin Thunder Liger, Ultimo Dragon. Like, these are guys that have come from, like, Japan that I can name. You push over some guy named Joshi Hanaroshi on TV, just shouting his name doesn't mean that I know him. That's not good investment. He's not something that I can tell apart from any other guy on the roster. How is that the fans' fault? That you guys can't advertise him as a star. So I can see that he's a star. That makes no sense to me. Cases with Shida, Maki Ito, Riho, Yuka Sakazaki, when I hear about some of these pathetic mother effers, would say because they think somebody else that has a podcast or a platform, so they're really going over the guys that are probably veterans that already have podcasts, that like Booker T, Kevin Nash, guys that actually know the business. And sure, I understand fans as well have their own podcast. But somebody's soliciting their dismay of why they're not watching that part of the product. Why they would rather watch something else than the thing that you want to show them. That should be a sign that you're not doing your job. If I'm showing my dismay of why I don't want to watch it, I'm not going to watch it. And that should be a sign over to improve even for the Japanese wrestlers. To see how they can, even if they want to keep the gimmick that they got to try to translate that to a more universal sense. Or at least display that in a way that I can get more of an understanding. So that's a sign of me trying to be like a dick. And plus, it's going to be more easy to relate with an English speaker in America than it is with a Japanese. You expect people to always remember what Asuka says on TV. Every time Asuka tries to spout over her Japanese, Kenny, do you laugh on your feet? Do you always tweet over those segments are hilarious? No, you don't. Nobody does. That's stupid. It's cringe her spamming over Japanese and nobody understands what she's saying. I'm a xenophobic prick. I'm not trying to gatekeep pro wrestling. That's what you guys do, trying to actually garner new fans over for your AEW product. Or even trying to go something for your partners like Impact Wrestling or New Japan. Because you guys just spouting over their name when they have barely enough name value that they have to come to your show to try to sell out a pay-per-view. When Japan touring America doesn't work or draw. And Impact hasn't been relevant since the early 2010s. So over that extent, yes. I don't get it. The Joshi wrestlers are so much more refined. Stop trying to always try to say pro wrestling's an art form, dog. Stop trying to say that. It's a form of entertainment, not an art form for you guys to protect your craft. Or articulate the way how smooth and crisp. Whenever I hear that in a wrestling match, just know that I'm walking away from you. Train 7 days a fucking week. So how come you don't sell that? These guys have unthinkable work ethic, as we think from guys from Japan or China, most parts of Asia. You should know how brutal the work ethic is in Japan. How come that's not sold? Smooth and professional. And we have never once had any sort of backstage political issues with Joshi wrestlers, because they can't understand you. So nobody needs to hear that you're going to buttfuck one of the Young Bucks backstage. They do not do whatever they can, whatever is asked for them. Japanese talents have had success on AEW, as Riho was an inaugural AEW Women's World Champion, defeating Nyla Rose. You see, the transphobic win. Rose would eventually defeat Riho and become... I don't need a whole ass synopsis. Just saying that Riho got success, Hikaru Shida got success, and held the belts for a considerable amount of time. What did that do for the product? What did that do to help out get most of these women's well-known name when they have extensive time with the belt? Everybody on AEW has this issue. You think that really makes any of these chicks special? Britt Baker held the belt for over a year. Thunder Rosa is probably going to have a 300-day reign with the women's title. No matter if anybody gets over or not. And that goes out for everybody. I think Nyla Rose was holding it for like 5 months before losing it to Riho again. Everybody has an extensive time with the reign. It's what they do with it that actually makes it memorable, and the feuds that go with it. No one gave a shit about the two blood and guts. No, not the two steel cage matches or St. Patrick blood gore orgy fests that happen with the matches that struggle to get these women over. So you can't be just trying to like push that over to the extent all because of the fake belt credit when none of that's been able to go into a supporting fan base other than the fans that are already there. And I get it. Punk has this experience because he wrestled in Japan. No one's going to take that away from that. He knows how hard these people work. And if that's the extent, they should be sold a lot harder trying to get to Americans' interest. Because American fans are just going to see them on face value the way they saw Maki Ito. A weirdo idol screaming in the middle of a fight. Prancing like a weirdo. Dancing some weird song while cussing in American English. You think you look at a regular guy that's never been watching the same wrestling that you have, Kenny, and you expect him to be like, bro, I'm gonna watch this every week, thanks for showing me this? You see how that translates over to Spanish, Lucha Libre? How they weren't given shit before later on? With Eddie Guerrero, with Rey Mysterio, with Juventud Guerrero, with the Lucha Brothers? You think sometimes they don't have an issue translating over to American fan bases without learning a couple stuff? You think Japan respects Gaijin wrestlers or went to certain Gaijin to get over? Because any other Gaijin, I think they're the heel because they're the foreigner that don't get the Japanese culture, and that goes for all around Japan. Japan don't give a fuck about foreigners, even American ones. If you think they're undisciplined, they're not part of the culture. Even if you speak a lick of Japanese, understand and respect the country and the laws, you're still a filthy Joshi. I mean, not a filthy Joshi. You're a filthy foreigner to them. So don't get it twisted. There's always a source of xenophobia in every part of the world. Don't be trying to force that narrative all because they can't get over. Because they're given the time to get over. Even if it requires, if their gimmick can't translate physically, they need to learn English. I didn't say that filthy Jap needed it. I said they need to if they want other fans to understand so they can get over. Because not everybody watches New Japan. Not everybody watches DDT, Shimmer, Naruto, Bible Black, whatever. It just takes a while. Even Nakamura, like he was supposed to be the super top guy from Japan that's on the same level as AJ Styles. And yet we're more comfortable seeing AJ Styles in the main event than Nakamura. All because Nakamura's gimmick doesn't translate to the Western fan base. Because it looks silly. He comes gyrating everywhere, speaking broken English, and just doesn't have an interesting personality other than he just does kicks. Nobody needs to know that Nakamura is a surfer. We just want to know why he's doing this. What makes him cool. So he can get over. No one says that he has to be like Brock Lesnar. So Omega's in the wrong for just trying to show why it's even less cool to be a wrestling fan. Thanks for explaining that. Trying to call everybody in the wrestling fan base that's not watching the like of Japanese wrestling a xenophobe, and you're the reason why Japanese wrestling isn't successful. And you're the reason why some of these Japanese wrestlers struggle to go out. You do nothing to advertise. You do nothing to actually show why Japanese wrestling should be a great alternative. Other than saying it's already there. You Google it. The fuck? How does that work? Oh, gosh. Well, guys, tell me how it is down below for you guys on the comment section below. I'll be streaming next Tuesday. Hopefully, I can try to get a hold of Brian. I want to get some sports talk out the way because the NFL season is not that far from here. NBA off season's heating up over the current signings going on. We still don't know what's going to happen with Kevin Durant and a bit of baseball talk. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. That's it for me.